At MedStory, we take privacy seriously and follow all healthcare privacy laws. Some details may be changed to protect confidentiality. The views expressed are solely those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views of their employer.
What makes someone decide not just to become a doctor, but to build a whole world of medicine around who they really are? Today's story is about Dr. Joshua Gonzalez, a urologist, a sexual health expert, and an entrepreneur. But long before all that, he was just a kid in awe of his pediatrician.
So I probably started saying I wanted to be a doctor like around 5 or 6, probably even before I knew what that meant.
It wasn't the science that drew him in, it was the connection.
He knew my mom's name, he knew everything about me, everything about her life. He was very, very involved in the care of his patients.
Now that kind of care, that kind of presence, it stuck with him. As Josh made his way through school and eventually to Columbia for medical training, another truth was growing inside of him, one he hadn't yet voiced. Josh grew up in Los Angeles, and a family that was supportive, even had gay friends. But still, the words never quite found their way out.
It literally took me moving 3,000 miles away from my friends and family. I moved from Los Angeles, where I spent most of my life, and moved to New York City to go to Columbia for medical school. And I think that living in a foreign city, to sit with myself and be honest with myself about who I was.
Coming out wasn't easy. It was messy and even emotional.
There's shame, there is feelings of, am I going to disappoint people? Have I hurt people along the way by not being honest with them up until now?
But eventually, honesty won.
Once I had that conversation with my parents, I just felt like so much lighter, and that I could be honest about the life that I was building for myself in New York that they were not a part of.
And once Josh allowed himself to be himself, he started noticing something that would change the course of his career.
Saw that there was a level of discomfort with providers and LGBTQ plus patients, especially as it related to sex, and them not necessarily feeling comfortable asking the right questions or not asking the questions at all.
That's when he found urology. Not exactly the field you'd imagine when you're dreaming of becoming a doctor at the age of 5. But for Josh, it just made sense.
I really connected with the people that went into urology. And I think urology it tends to attract people that don't take themselves that seriously, because we deal with like people's literal private parts, and we have to have very uncomfortable conversations with people all the time. And I think because of that, it attracts people that connect with people on a more human level.
After 10 years in New York, medical school, residency, and fellowship, Josh returned to California and did something bold.
I didn't really feel like I could spend the amount of time that I needed to with patients in a large healthcare system.
At first, he worked under another urologist. Then he went fully solo.
It was pretty scary those first 3 months. I mean, I didn't really have a lot of people coming through the door.
But patients followed him, even across the infamous traffic-filled sprawl of Los Angeles. Over time, the waiting room filled, the practice grew, and today,
I've established myself as one of the leaders in sexual health in Los Angeles. I treat people of all genders, which is unique because a lot of people that go into sexual health really focus on men or focus on women. And I have the skill set to treat really anybody that has a sexual health issue. So I feel privileged.
And just when things were thriving, the world shut down. COVID hit. Clinic volume dropped, and Josh, like many others, were stuck wondering, what now? And that is when an idea surfaced, one that had been lingering under the surface.
Around that time, I had been seeing a lot of patients complaining of having low ejaculatory volume, but a lot of people didn't want to take medicine for this problem. So they were asking, what can I do naturally?
There were meds, but many patients didn't want the medication. So Josh called a friend, his mentor and now co-founder, Dr. Brian, and said,
I have a kind of a crazy idea, but I feel like if we could come up with a supplement to address this issue, we would have a gold mine on our hand, because I don't feel like there's anybody really that's done that.
And that is how Popstar was born, a physician-led, science-backed supplement brand for sexual wellness.
We're 2 urologists who specialize in sexual health, we could put our expertise behind it and put our heads together and really come up with a formula based in scientific data that we have. And so we spent about a year doing all of this research.
The result, a best-selling supplement for men's health, followed by a fertility formula and more on the way.
It was sort of like just an idea that ended up becoming this whole company.
But even with a booming clinic and a growing business, Josh hasn't lost sight of what started it all.
I just remind myself that I have autonomy over my practice, and that's really not possible outside of what I'm doing.
A kid inspired by a doctor, a student learning to be honest with himself, and a man building a business that helps others feel seen. That's what Dr. Josh has built. And it all started by telling the truth. So if you're someone that feels lost or unseen, either working in the medical system or on the other side, just know you are not alone and that your story deserves to be shared. Thanks for listening to the MedStory Podcast, where we share the stories of the greatest minds in science and medicine. I'm your host, Spencer Locke, with a special thanks to our executive producer, Shina May. Our music comes from Blue Dot Sessions and the Descript Audio Library. The MedStory Podcast is made possible by MedStory Studios and listeners like you. So if you'd like to support us, please leave a review. It means more than you know. And if you have a story to share or want to produce a podcast of your own, reach out to us at info@medstorymedia.com. We'll see you in the next episode.